Tiny baby girl cuddles twins for the first time after being separated at birth. A tiny baby girl, who doctors said wouldn't make it after being born prematurely, was reunited with her twin brother for the first time since they were separated at birth. Tiny Neve and her big twin brother, Louie, were born early by emergency C-section, as Neve was not getting enough nutrients in the womb due to the placenta deteriorating. Photos taken in the past few days by proud parents Laura and Crash Scary show the twin brother and sister finally able to cuddle after weeks apart. The 27-year-old first-time mom from Walton said, "They had me up the wall. I was going to the hospital twice a week as never her placenta was deteriorating." Her and Louie were in separate bags and he was fine, but it was affecting her blood flow, so I had to have an emergency C-section. She added, "For a good few weeks, I was carrying them. I kept getting told by the hospital that she was not going to make it. They wanted her to make it to 28 weeks, so they were keeping an eye on her blood flow. And because it stayed stable, they pushed it to 30 weeks before performing the emergency C-section." After the twins were born at Liverpool Women's Hospital, Louie weighed over 3 lbs, but his sister was just over 1 lb. However, it was Louie who seemed to be suffering more after his premature delivery. Laura said when they didn't come out, she didn't need any oxygen at all. She was fine. It was Louie. Both of the lungs collapsed because he had air in them. So he ended up receiving a treatment to drain the air out of his lung. The first time Mama from Malton said the birth was scary because she was told for the last few weeks of my pregnancy Neve might not make it, but she was fine. Neve had reversed blood flow and was not getting enough nutrients, but despite being so tiny, she didn't need oxygen, Miss Huff said. "She's incredible," the doctor said. They had never seen a baby so small, not needed any help, she said. However, the twins had to be cared for in different units after Louie had complications and his lungs collapsed. Miss Huff said he was much better now, and the twins were finally reunited on Tuesday. "It was horrible when they were separated at birth, but I cried tears of joy when they get back together," she said. They were wrapping their legs around each other and cuddling, even holding hands at one point. They were so cute. Miss Huff said doctors hope that twins could go home by May. "Everyone is made up with them. We are desperate to welcome them home," she said. As Louie required medical intervention so early after being born in March 8, the decision was made to separate the twins as soon as they were born so they could receive treatment. Now, 2 weeks on, both Louie and Neve have finally been allowed in the same incubator together. Laura said, "About 2 nights ago, one of the other babies was being moved to a different unit, so they brought Neve down and put her in the same room as her brother. Then yesterday, they put them both in the same incubator at the same time. They ended up with their arms over each other, their legs crossed and holding hands. She tried to put her hands around his neck. It was funny to watch. Laura said she was made up when they were born as she wanted made them, but at the same time she was scared because doctors were telling her Neve might not make it. She added, "She's wept our eyes, to be honest. All the doctors who come and see her have a soft spot for her, and they are made up with both of them. They said you will let them when they leave because they need more little fighters like that to keep them going. They've never seen a baby like her, so small without having to have any oxygen or anything to help her breathe. She's just doing it all on her own. She's smaller than a baby doll, but she's doing so well. She's unbelievable." And another similar story. Chester and Otis Graves were both born prematurely at 28 weeks on July 15th this year, but weighing just 1 lb compared to his brother's 3 lb 7 oz. Chester was left fighting for his life, while Otis was discharged from hospital after 6 weeks. Chester remains in the neonatal unit at Southend Hospital. And despite the baby still only weighing 3 lb/6 oz, the family are hopeful he will be reunited with his twin at home in the next 2 months. Parents Kelly Graves, 32, and husband Billy, 35, from Benfleet, Essex, say they have no doubt that Chester's fight for survival is down to the bond he shares with his identical twin. Since the day my water broke at 28 weeks, we've lived in Wormland, Kelly Graves explained. But we are so lucky that Chester is a fighter, and despite everything he has been through, he is still fighting in order to come home and be with his parents, Otis, and the rest of the family. Chester's health problems first became apparent in a Graves 16-week scan, where doctors raised concern that the babies differed in size by 25%. The size difference was due to a condition called selective intrauterine growth restriction, which resulted in Chester not receiving the required nutrients from the placenta, halting his growth. Following the scan, Miss Graves was admitted to the King's College Hospital in London for laser surgical treatments. I had to have endoscopic laser surgery, whereby they entered the womb through the side of your body in order to reach the placenta and kill off the blood vessels connecting the 2 babies, she explains. The surgery was performed to separate the babies in the womb, so that if Chester hadn't survived, it would have protected Otis from dying or being left with lasting brain damage. After the surgery, the family were warned Chester was still only growing around 25 grams a week, whereas Otis was growing roughly 100 grams a week. I was told at every scan that he may not survive, which was heartbreaking, Mrs. Graves says. Thankfully, Chester's condition stabilized, but at 28 weeks, Mrs. Graves' water broke, and she was taken via ambulance to Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge, with doctors fearing she may need to deliver the babies. At this point, Chester was 485 grams, which was close to being deemed viable. But we were told his heart rate kept dipping and that the chances of survival from the strain would be low. She continues, we just had to hope that he would keep fighting. Otis was born first, immediately ventilated following the C-section, but Chester had to be stabilized, having become very weak. Medics found a knot in his umbilical cord which had been stunting his growth. Doctors were able to ventilate the newborn, and ever since, Chester has been fighting multiple issues, including necrotizing enterocolitis, a serious condition where tissue in the bowel becomes inflamed, a hole in his heart, and an eye problem which needed surgery. Though he remains in hospital in high-flow oxygen, Chester has steadily improved, with the family believing cuddles from his twin are helping him to fight. It is very bittersweet because we have Otis at home now and everyone says how nice it must be. But it's also horrible because we cannot feel complete until both babies are back together, Miss Graves explains. The twins finally met for the first time since being born on September 22nd, which the family described as an incredible emotional moment. It was everything I was waiting for. And although Otis was asleep, Chester was obsessed with them and couldn't take his eyes away from his brother, Miss Graves says. Have no doubt that cuddles with his twins has helped him keep fighting. Now the family are focused on getting the twins back together at home and reuniting Chester with the rest of the family. Siblings Phoebe, 10, Florence, 8, and Albert, 5. Chester will most likely be on low-flow oxygen when he's home, but we are hoping in around a month or 2 he can finally meet the rest of the family. Miss Graves continues, the kids have been incredible. They are so young but are just as separate to get Chester home, and they haven't been able to even. Chester has now tripled his birth weight, currently weighs 3 lb/6 oz, but still has to gain a further 255 grams to be discharged. We are hoping in around a month or 2 he can finally meet the rest of the family. If you like this story, share the video so that people know the story of these children. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel.